Well, good morning there, YouTube. Today is a wonderful, beautiful, sunny September day, September 21st. This day stands apart if you are born on September 21st. You gotta keep an eye out because Satan worshipers, people who sacrifice, human sacrifice, that whole satanic ritual, they look for someone who was born on an equinox, specifically the fall equinox or today. September 21st. So if today is your birthday, hot foot, keep an eye out. Those devil worshippers might be coming hungry, looking for a sacrifice. I know this morning I was up till 8 o'clock in the morning. I was up all night editing video. I had some bad luck with the editing. I just kept kind of missing stuff, or something would come up in the final edit that I missed. Like, oh, that car that goes flying by in that scene really needs to be an ambulance. Or this effect doesn't really work well. This transition leading into this makes it look funny. So it was just a lot of waiting for stuff to render to see how it looks. Which kind of sucks with Sony Vegas, with my setup. That's just a fact of life. But I can't complain. I worked all night. We got 2 great videos out of the deal. I'm really proud of the work we did and the music we recorded this last weekend. So I'm working on this stuff. I'm like, I know I should go to bed. I got company coming over tomorrow. It's going to be a great day. And I got a message at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, a little over 2 years ago, I had done this guitar pedal. It's a fuzz kit. And I had done a demo. It's a $20 kit. The guy who sells these kits sent me one for free. And it comes with everything you see here. I put this thing together and it sounds excellent. It sounds a lot like a germanium fuzz. It's very versatile. You can get a lot of different tones out of it. It's got some clipping, adjustable diode clipping. So you can get more tones. A normal fuzz is just a pair of transistors. I talk all about it in this thing here. There's the pots have switches on the back. One of them turns the power on, and one of them is the compression knob. That's what I have it labeled. I have bias, fuzz, compression, and volume. So the volume knob has a switch to turn the power on, and the compression knob turns the diode clipping on. Normally a fuzz circuit will just have maybe it'll have 2 transistors or 3 transistors, but there won't be any diodes to clip the audio. That's something that came out in the 70s with op-amp distortion, like the Ross distortion, the Distortion Plus by MXR, or the DOD 250, all pretty much the same circuit. They use the LM741, which is this op-amp that has a low slew rate. It's very dirty. When you run audio through that op-amp, it's distorted naturally, without any op-amp clipping. So you get some distortion from the op-amp and then some from using these diodes. And that's the same concept with this fuzz. A normal fuzz doesn't have those clipping diodes. Well, you add them in and you're getting 2 distortions in one. So that factor of adding it, if you adjust it and don't just turn everything all the way up, you get some wonderfully usable, really intense distorted tones. And that's an idea that I really like, is not putting all your eggs in one basket. Like, all the distortion's not coming from one place. Some of it's coming from these clipping diodes, some of it's coming from the transistors, or in the other case, the op-amp, the LM741. But don't bring that up anywhere near an electronic engineer, because they will throw a fit. Why would you want to use an old, inefficient, dirty op-amp with the low slew rate? There's no magic in it. You could get the same effect using a much more modern op-amp that you could run a properly designed negative inverted feedback loop and get the same dirty effect. And I'm like, well, why would I want to do that when I can just use this shitty old op amp? And there you go. So, yeah, watch out for that. If you become a fan of the LM741, don't talk about it, because you will get in trouble for it. Here's a picture of a cat standing up, and that makes me very happy. Now, taking a look at the problem here, this guy calls me out, Dave Murray Holland. This is 8 hours ago. It's 1 p.m. You do the math. It's early in the morning. So I've got 2 of these coming, just PCB. The guy no longer sells the kits. He's just selling the printed circuit board. I've got 10K pots with the switch, but I don't see why those are used. Well, you need to learn how to read a schematic if you're going to be building pedals, pal. I don't know what to tell you. Any input as I'm leaning towards a pop reducing resistor. Does that even make any sense, that sentence? Any input as I'm leaning towards a pop reducing resistor. Well, let's take a look, David Murray Holland, at your channel. This is what I do when people are kind of ignorant or they piss me off in the comment section. Here he is. Something happened to this sibling. Probably ate him. Probably ate his older brother. Let's take a look here. What do we have here? The Hollies bus stop. Okay, I heard enough of that one. Sound of Silence. I think I would have preferred the Sound of Silence. Let's take a look at another. Sings the hits on ukulele.
Hello, darkness, my friend.
Washburn, Bad Dog.
How much of a fucking beast this thing is.
Let's see how much of a fucking beast this thing is. Beaters.
Compression crank, gain of 5, master 5. Go louder.
Okay. The Land Tone DIY Fuzz Face.
Alright, so double Germanium, GT320, something like 50 HFE, and AC 128, which I don't know why it's reading like 1,000.
Okay, I'll tell you why it's reading like 1,000, pal. Right here, using this, you have to understand me, buddy. You were rude to me in my comment section. You were a dick, and you accused me of copping out on you, which you never do that to me. Never. You obviously don't know me, and what you did was wrong, and I'm making this video in response, and in the process I'm going to answer your questions, but I fucking shouldn't because of the way you talk to me. Because you don't come to someone's channel and start accusing them and generally just being a dick. As I'll illustrate here, any input as I'm leaning towards a pop reducing resistor. A cap input filter on the 9 volt coming with a stereo input power. I'm also considering one built using Sizlaki germanium on top of a S9018 instead of a 3904. So my reply to this was, I built mine stock and I love it. I also post links when I ask people to work for free. What that means is if you come in and ask somebody a technical question, you need to provide a schematic so they can answer your question. Okay? His response, avoiding the question, I want a bypass switch. What are the switching pots doing? Schematic makes them look redundant. No, I'm not avoiding the question, pal. You messaged me at 6 o'clock in the morning when I had been up for about 20 hours working, editing video nonstop without a break. Okay? And why you would listen to my demo and think you need to modify this, like there's two types of builders. One builder will trust the person who designed the circuit because it's flawless. This is a flawless circuit. The other person thinks they know better. And a huge problem with Dave Murray Holland is he doesn't know how to Google. We're going to come back to that. Now, taking a look at his video, I need to point out this here is the transistor test on a $5 meter. This is the cheapest meter on the market. And as you see here, he has his finger on it because it won't make contact without him holding. Where is it? I saw it before. He had to like there. He got it to make contact, but at first he's holding the transistor in with his finger at an angle, and these do not make contact. So one thing you can do is take a hot knife or a drill, cut a slot in here, and then you run a 3 wires or a ribbon cable of 3 wires, solder them onto each one of these 3 points here, and then put a 3 transistor socket on here, and that will make contact. You plug your transistor into the socket, and those wires will go and connect here, and then it will. The transistor sockets will make contact where these do not make contact. Now, the thing about testing your germanium transistors in one of these transistor testers, these things work for silicon transistors, but they don't work for the old germanium ones. And anybody who's been doing this for a while will tell you this is a noob mistake. What you really need to do is R.G. Keen is the guy. R.G. Keen germanium testing. And here's the article. You have to build a little test rig. There it is. Picking transistors for fuzz face clones. Here's the rig you need to build. You can't just put them in the cheapest meter on the market. That's why the one is reading 1,000, pal. You can also get one of these component testers that they sell if you want to take the easy way out. You'll get a different reading with these two. And like if you throw a JFET in here and then you flip it around 180 degrees, the readout won't change. Which a JFET has a drain, source, and a gate. It should invert 180 degrees when you switch it 180 degrees, and they don't. So these are good. They're worth what you pay for them at about $15. Assembled, well, the disassembled kit is $13.27 with the plastic case. And this is kind of recommended. It'll get you a better ballpark than using this method that he's using in his video, which is the worst way to test a germanium transistor. It does not give you an accurate reading. But if you want to do it right, read about R.G. Keen's germanium transistor test. Or here you can read this thread about the DA75. That's one of those testers. So if you are looking for more information on that, you could also go to my channel.
Hey, look at that tree! It's shaking!
And you can see that I have germanium transistors for beginners. Here's the one multimeter cheap hack to where you solder the cable in, so you can you don't have to put your finger on it. Because see, the thing about that is the body heat of your finger touching that is going to affect the number you get. Now, when you build R.G. Keen's germanium tester, depending on the temperature of where you're at, that's what it looks like. You hook your meter up to it, and it's got a 9-volt power supply. Mine has a little digital readout. You don't need that. I'm using a 7809 VREG to get stable, solid 9 volts to it, that's important. And then here it is. It's a triple socket. Sorry, this is out of focus. There's a little pot, and there's a switch. And you hook it up to your meter. and I pop a transistor in there, and then you hit the switch or do what you got to do. There's a mathematical formula. You need a calculator, and you have to wait, because when you pop it in here, it will adjust. The number will keep dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And what you'll find is you end up waiting for a long time. Like if you've got quite a few germaniums to test, this is really going to take a long time. But you're going to get an accurate number. So for ballpark, get one of these. But if you really want to do it right, if you're going to obsess and trip out on it and really want the best, which for me, you can do the same thing with your ear. And it's a fuzz circuit. You know, do you really need to get that carried away on your first couple of builds, just tripping out on it and spending this incredible amount of time? It's up to you. Like I said, if you've got a real lot of germaniums to test, I would go ahead and get one of these. Watch who you buy your actives from. Get them from some Czechoslovakian supplier. Those Russian guys are bozos. They cherry pick their stuff. People will tell you that's not the case, but I've been burned. And I know. So coming back to this comment here. Where are we at here? I've got the 10K pots with the switch, but I don't see why they're used. Well, I need a schematic to see that. Okay? I can't tell you. I can't see either because you didn't give me a schematic. Now, any input, as I'm leaning toward a pop reducing resistor, I think what he's talking about there is I don't want the pedal to make a loud pop when I click it on, because his fuzz face does. So I need a pull down resistor is the proper term. So what you do there, you go over here to your Google, guitar effect pull down resistor. Okay? And the first thing you do is you can read if you want, or go over here and take a look at these diagrams. This guy here, he says, oh, you just solder it right on here. Yeah, that's wrong. You need to solder it onto the input connection between the input and the ground. The wire that is your, however you wire this thing. But there's a wire that's the input to the PCB, and in between that and the ground. You can't just do it on the switch. It doesn't work. So taking a look over here, basically you need to read this and it will explain it to you. It's a 1M resistor. You start with a 1M and test it. Does that fix your pop? If it doesn't, put in a 2. If it doesn't, put in a 3. And you think, oh my goodness, I'm just putting a massive amount of resistance in between my input and my ground. That's going to totally make my fuzz quiet. Well, no, it doesn't. From experience, this just solves the problem, and it doesn't wreak havoc on your tone like you think it would, cause all kinds of impedance issues. Basically, it solves your problem, but I'm not an expert. I've only had a few times where I installed a pull-down resistor, and you know what? If I went back and tested all the pedals I build, I'm guessing there's probably some that need it. But again, you're coming at me to try to get me to answer all of your questions, and you're with the minimum of wordage, and then you're kind of a dick about it. I said I built mine stock. Why are you doing this cap input filter on the 9-volt coming in with the stereo input power? Why do you need the stereo style input power? If you looked at the schematic, you'd see that that's what one of the switches is for. You don't understand the switches because you didn't look at the schematic, and then you got mad at me and said, avoiding the question. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and I answered you less an hour after you sent the question. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I answered you at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I told you I built mine stock and I love it, meaning I didn't go modding the shit out of it. I build my stuff stock for the first time. And then you figure out the mods yourself. Because coming on the internet and having someone else figure out all your problems and do all your answers for you is a coward's path. And you're never going to learn anything on your own. So, considering building one using a Sizlaki germanium. Oh, are you? What's the name of your pedal company? What fishing lures are you going to put in your hat when you go to NAMM? So let's take a look at what a Sizlaki. Oh, it's a germanium Darlington pair. So right away, that means you would have to run this on reverse polarity, this pedal. So it's not going to be able to be daisy chained with any other Boss style pedals. And you're talking about a completely different thing. This is a perfectly good silicon fuzz that you're trying to raise the value. You want to sell this on eBay or brag that it's germanium because it's some rare thing that you can charge a bunch of money for. And then he brings up this S9018. Like, why can't you just build it with this common transistor that it was designed for? That it sounds unbelievably great. And it sounds just like a germanium fuzz, but it's not temperature sensitive. You can run it above 85 degrees and it doesn't change the sound. You put your Sizlaki germaniums in there and see what happens in August. It's going to poop out. You're only going to be able to play that thing in February when it's cold. So his S9018, let's see about avoiding the question. I'm avoiding the question. Yeah, it's fucking 7 o'clock in the morning and I've been up for 20 hours. So let's go ahead and type in his weird-ass transistor that I've never heard of. Okay. It's an NPN transistor. Let's type in guitar effect. Yeah, I really don't see anything with that transistor. Here's one. Any of these transistors useful? I found a box of old transistors. Yeah. Nope. I've never heard of that. I went to the guitar forum and searched this transistor, and there was one reference of it, and it was a guy who had taken apart a VCR and found one. And he's like, there's a 4558 chip in here too. So this is like an unbelievable noob thing. A 3904, let's see. Let me go to eBay and see how much it costs to get that transistor. You know, people, this is a mistake. 20 of them for $2. People will take apart old stuff and try to pull the resistors out. If you go to Tata, the resistors are 1 penny for the quarter-watt resistors. They're 1 penny. Oh, look at that. I wrote 14. So why you would want to waste the electricity? It's going to cost you more. You know, there it is, 1 penny. And the 5%, the blue ones are the same thing. They're 0.012. So yeah, they're a little bit more expensive. 0.002 more. But as far as taking something that somebody designed and putting all different parts in it, that's not my style of DIY. Especially when I'm just getting going and I think that a 75 watt bass amp is powerful. Okay. Now, my retort is I built mine stock and I love it. I also post links when I ask people to work for free. Avoiding the question, I want a bypass switch. What are the switching pots doing? Schematic makes them look redundant. So he's looking at the schematic, but he won't share it with me. But he's accusing me of avoiding the question, which all he would have had to do was give me the schematic and I would have helped him out, even at 5 o'clock in the morning. So as far as the bypass wiring goes, you need to Google that. You need to figure out for yourself what bypass wiring, because it's all different. Here's one that has a LED, uses the regular stock stop switch. It's got accoutrement for a 9-volt battery clip. So basically, yeah, I could tell you, well, if you're using the, let me see here, Lazy Mofo. No, that's not it. It's the, why? Yeah, here we go, the Jagoff file. If you're using the Kobicon 1634302 2.1 millimeter jack and you've got the long pin center conductor to your left, put a double black wire. One of those black wires would lead to the minus side of the 9-volt battery clip. The hot side of that would return to the outer connector on the Kobicon, with the adjacent black wire going to the ring connection of the input switchcraft number 12B stereo input jack. The sleeve runs directly to the ground of the PCB. The tip would run to pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your 3P DT stomp. And I would proceed to go through this whole thing and type this out for him, because he's too lazy to do this. And I'll show you. Here's what you need to learn how to do, buddy. The internet, it's not just for porn anymore. Guitar, pedal, wiring. Enter. Okay? Then you go over here. See where it says images? Yeah, that's not just boobs. You come here and there's all kinds of different options for wiring this stuff up. You could go silly with the options. Maybe you don't want that 9-volt. Well, you can find it here. And rather than going through and scrolling and getting a sore finger, you go ahead and type in no battery snap, and that's going to get you closer to what you need. Now, as far as this working for free, the bypass switch, yeah, you're going to have to figure out your wiring, but what are the switching pots doing and the schematic? Well, gee, I don't know. Let's see, how long does it take me to find the schematic, which you didn't do. Oh, there it is. We'll shave a couple seconds off because I didn't have to type in fuzz kit. So 1, 2, there we go. And how long is this going to take? Okay. Copy. With switch. Okay, here it is. More drive and clipping. The switch engages when the pot is above minimum. This turns on a low pass filter on the input. The other one is the power. So as far as running your, using a stereo jack to turn the, so you would be unplugging and unplugging in your cable to save your battery from dying. You don't need to do that, pal. This switch is on the output volume. This pot, both of the pots have switches on them, and there, both of the pots have switches. So if you want to kill that battery and shut it off, you just turn this knob all the way down. You don't need to do that wiring. You could, but you don't need to do that, because it tells you here, if you read it, if you take a minute and get away from whatever you're so busy doing that you can't read, and you're demanding that I help you and accusing me of avoiding you at 5 o'clock in the morning. So he says this here is a low pass filter. Let's see, because I remember building this and being confounded that it was incorrect. It wasn't a low pass filter, and it wasn't a okay, so here's the information. You can see here, there are the switches hooking up there. I remember pinning it out, or actually following the traces on the board. And what I determined was this one turns the power on and off, and this one bypasses the clipping diodes. Okay? So I went ahead and I've got the schematic and I turned it. What you do is you grab this, hit print screen. I have Gadwin print screen installed in my computer. That'll get you here. I'm using Irfan View photo editor, which is a free editor. So I'm going to hit Control Y and I'm going to hit right, and then bring that image up to where I can see it. So now here it's showing on pot, the switch on the pot. The one of them is going to disconnect the battery. Let's see, is this the supposed low pass filter? Yeah, 9 volts. Here's 9 volts. Here's this switch. So on the volume pot, this switch, if you turn the volume all the way down, it disconnects the battery. So you don't need to get that stereo jack on your input and run the ground on the jack through it. So you're gonna look for a wiring diagram that uses a mono jack, or just ignore that third wire. This one here, and why I'm going to the hassle to telling you this after you said I was avoiding the question, you can go fuck yourself, buddy, and I can give a shit about rude people who are going to come to the comment section and try to muscle on to me and make me look bad because they were too lazy to figure out what they needed to figure out to build the thing. And I'll tell you what, I have nothing to do with the guy who sells these things. The deal I had with him was one kit, and I make a demo video, and that deal is done years ago. I have to tell you, I love this circuit. It's a great fuzz. This circuit proves that you don't need germanium to get great fuzz. And it's way more versatile than any germanium, and it's not temperature sensitive. So why you would want to ruin that by using an expensive, ridiculously complicated, temperature sensitive, leaky, old ass germanium transistor just so you can tout it and say, I'm germanium boy. Well, go ahead, have fun and good luck. Now, it shows here this second switch is on the input. It would just disconnect the input of the guitar. That makes absolutely no sense. And if you pin it out, if you follow where the switch is, this switch needs to be moved here. Okay? So, let's take this. I'm going to copy that. There you go. I just kind of fixed that. The guy who designed this was trying to protect his work, I'm guessing, or it was a mistake. That's not perfect, but it's better. This switch that's on the pot is disconnecting the clipping diodes. Okay, so at this point, I'm sorry you can't see it. I am going to, I'm avoiding the question. Plugging it into the RG Keen test oscillator. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Ooh, power supply. Did you see that power supply, darling?
The round thing?
Yeah. What did I do with that power supply? Oh boy. Here it is. Da 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 da. Okay, so right now I've got the biased. I got the fuzz at about 3/4 and the volume's kind of low, and I'm sending a weak input signal. I'll turn the input signal up to about a guitar normally is. Now I'm going to engage the the first switch is on the volume control. So when you turn that down, the volume drops to the point where you can't hear it. Then it disconnects the power if you're using a battery. I have this wired with a external jack, so my LED is still on. But that's what happens. Now the second switch, I have it labeled C for compression because it adds that second set of clipping diodes. pot is dirty. Sorry about that. That's with it all the way up. And this is bringing it down. So to hear that, what that sounds like with a guitar, it's more clipping. You know, it's adding diode clipping to a transistor fuzz. And this is a very versatile circuit. That's without them. You can hear how the volume drops a little bit. It's more clipped out with these. That's with the clipping diode max, and this is with it disengaged from the circuit. I've got the neck pickup with the tone rolled back. I'm going to turn that compressor all the way on. So the clipping diodes are maximum engaged. Turn the fuzz knob all the way up. I really need a pick. Didn't think I was going to be having to perform for this dick in the mouth guy too. That's maximum clipping. I'm going to cut them completely out of the circuit. That's with the misbiased maximum compression. See, something like that would sound cool with a booster in front of it. But as far as this is an unbelievably versatile very versatile fuzz. The secondary switch that this guy was confused about is shown on the schematic as being disconnecting the input. That's how the guy had it, which is incorrect. So I completely understand why this guy was confused, but to come into to come on my demo and just kind of like he comes off like he really knows what he's talking about with all this stuff, but he's asking me like he doesn't understand it, but he wants this pop reducing, he wants the cap input filter on the 9-volt. That's what I forgot to cover. So that cap input filter on the 9-volt, that's power filtering. So we're going to go guitar effects power filtering. This is what you need to learn how to do in between playing your ukulele and doing your covers. The first thing that comes up, here's a 1N4004. You can use 5817s. Here's a current limiting resistor. It's a 100 ohm. A electrolytic capacitor for power filtering, and then a lower value capacitor. That's for high frequencies. This is for lower hum. There's all kinds of different ways to do this. Here's one that's on a perf board. It's basically the same thing. Is the diode the same? Or yeah, it's a 1N whatever diode. I use 5817s. Those are the ones with the least voltage drop. So all of these questions that this guy asked, it's all stuff like, how do I go from having this circuit to a pedal that I could sell? A pedal that doesn't have any noise. A pedal that it doesn't pop. That there's no problems with using all kinds of different power supplies or interference. How do I have it shut off when I disconnect? I can tell what this guy's doing. He's going to build one for himself and one to sell. And he's going to put it up as a Sislaki germanium because he wants to get $150 or $250 for the fuzz. And I can tell you, dude, avoiding the question is incredibly fucking rude thing to say to me at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, whenever it was, when you came on here and barely made enough sense typing with your thumbs when I had been up for 20 hours. And I immediately responded to you. And I told you that I built mine stock, which is what I would recommend you do. So, again, be nice.